Yeah, who is this? I'm sorry, I don't recognize your voice.
Seriously.
Wow.
This is the Cannabis Community Project. Oh, yeah.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project from the Dang Studios at 3835 Elm Street in Denver, Colorado. It's the Grind and Burn Show. Hey, Cannapreneurs, I want to tell you briefly about a very close company to mine, Cushly Products. Candles, sprays, soaps, and lotions. Cushly has been with us for almost 3 years now, representing all of the great aspects of an entrepreneur. Cushly Soy Candles. Clean and clear.
Good day, good afternoon, good evening to all of you out in internet land. Thank you for tuning in to the Grind and Burn Show with Brainstorm. Except you're listening to me, Kate Mullen, filling in for Brainstorm right now. Want to thank you all for tuning in to CannabisCommunityProject.com, to the Grind and Burn Show. And we have a lot to offer you, cannabis entrepreneurs, cannabis business people, cannabists, and just plain people that are interested in the cannabis business. We bring a lot to the table as far as your information. Myself, I bring 25 years as a publicist and in media. I also know about how to get publicity from the media. I am also a member of the largest consumer demographic group in the country, which we're going to talk about that in just a moment. I want to make sure that you know that if you'd like to reach us at the CannabisCommunityProject.com, at the Grind and Burn Show, simply reach out via email. Email us at contact@CannabisCommunityProject.com, the Grind and Burn Show. If you have any questions, just reference the show or my name, Kate Mullen. I wanted to take a minute and talk to y'all today about something that I think a lot of people are not aware of. And this is just a casual conversation between me and you and periodically Bob, my studio engineer. You know, we live in a wonderful state here in Colorado, and I'm speaking about this topic because I'm witnessing this firsthand as a microcosm of what is soon going to happen across the country. And that is the legalization of cannabis and what that does to small towns or to any town that cannabis is legal in. Obviously, in Colorado, you know, years ago you had the advent of medicinal marijuana, and most recently you have the proliferation of recreational marijuana. And it is such a great thing. Here in our little town in Trinidad, Colorado, we've seen our population grow. We had a spike in retail home sales. We earned $2.25 million that the city got to keep out of the tax revenue that was generated. Generated $10 million. $10 million in tax revenue for the county, Los Animas County, and the city of Trinidad in 1 year. In 1 year. And that's just cannabis revenues that they were able to track from dispensaries. That's not cannabis revenues that went into the restaurants, the stores, the small businesses. And that's what I want to address right now. Because I think that a lot of people, when they get interested in the cannabis business, they think, I don't want to sell pot. Well, you know what? That's not how it works. Maybe you're not going to sell pot. And a lot of people that are in the cannabis industry don't sell pot. Only a very, very small percentage of people in the cannabis business are actually touching bud. You got to understand that when cannabis comes into a town or a city or a state or a country, that the towns, the city, the state, they make a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. $700 billion. Is that what they made this year in the state of Colorado? That's crazy talk. $700 billion. And there's any question as to whether or not this weed should be legalized, whether it's legalized and legislated like alcohol or whether it's just repealed prohibition. The benefit of legalization of cannabis goes far beyond touching herb. You got to talk about ancillary cannabis business opportunities. If you're not talking about ancillary cannabis business opportunities, you're missing 3/4 of the boat. You're missing 3/4 of the business opportunities that come with the cannabis business. Remember, in the gold rush back, in the 1800s, it was not the miners that got rich. It was the bankers. It was the hotels. It was the prostitutes. In fact, the prostitutes settled the West because they turned out to be the ones that had the most money and started the most businesses. For Christ's sake, if you can't see that's an opportunity for women, I mean, I'm not saying get into the prostitution business in the green rush. What I'm saying is the ancillary businesses that benefit the cannabis industry are money makers, big time money makers. And I think a lot of people are missing that boat. People in towns, in cannabis business towns where cannabis has been legal, they get extra population, right? What does that mean? That means your infrastructure must grow. Or your rental cars, your hotels, your stores, everything from shoe shops to bakeries, straight bakeries, bike stores, everything has to also grow when you get that extra population. So you're not touching bud. If you're in retail sales, say if you got a thrift store or a specialty store or a dollar store, you're not touching bud if you're in the food business. But conversely, you can touch bud if you're in the food business. There's live or infused foods. What amazes me, you know what amazes me, Bob? Bob does not know what amazes me. What amazes me is that no one has opened an infused foods restaurant to where you have infused foods and you have non-infused foods, but you have an infused menu. I mean, for crying out loud, do you know how many people would come to that infused foods restaurant? Plenty. Exactly. So we got restaurants. What about personal industries like clothing cleaners and salons, health food stores? What about schools? All of these people that come in and open dispensaries, that open grows. I mean, for crying out loud, people, they have kids. So you need music teachers, you need dance teachers, you need educational teachers, you need people that'll contribute their time and effort to the PTA. You need extra educational outlets. You need outlets that'll teach people how to grow or cultivate or cook cannabis, or to teach people how to grow or cultivate or expand their businesses or expand their own learning. Also, what goes with that, and when you have a cannabis business or a cannabis industry grow in your town or in your city, you have a greater need for home maintenance. Home maintenance companies, landscape companies, real estate companies, apartment management companies. You don't understand. I think a lot of people don't understand that there is so much more money to be made in cannabis ancillary businesses. And I'm not just talking about smoke lounges and head shops. I'm talking about labor markets open up. So you got a cannabis city or town, and what happens? You get all these extra people. Well, they need entertainment. So you have to open up a labor market for stage personnel or a theatrical personnel or music production personnel. People can start labor aggregate companies, which means that you become a workforce center. So you get all the names of all the guys and gals that want to be stagehands, for instance, and they have some knowledge of stage work, or they want to be contractors, or they're general laborers, or they're heavy equipment operators, and you begin a list and a roster, and you become a labor aggregate, because all of these places, all of these cannabis businesses and other businesses need temporary, part-time, or fill-in help. Do you see? And you're not even touching bud. You can do temporary help for health care. You know what amazes me, Bob? Bob does not know what amazes me. You know what amazes me? Is that no one has started a cannabis confidential health care company. Someone that comes in and cares for people that are cannabis people. Like, say, for instance, we know people in New Mexico that one of the guys is a justice of the peace and his wife has MS. And they both use cannabis in order to him to deal with the pain and suffering that his wife has to deal with, and for her to have a better quality of life. There is no way these people are going to call in a housekeeper. No way these people are going to call in a private duty nurse or a private care companion or healthcare worker. Why has someone not started this? Talk about $1 million, and you just got to be sure that it's confidential, and you can do it anywhere, even especially in states where there is no legalization of cannabis, because it doesn't mean that there's not people smoking it medicinally. Then you also have temporary child care, temporary office help. What about entertainment? You got entertainment support, tourism and relocation. And you also got to understand that the consumer that you're dealing with is not who you think it is. I'm going to tell you who your biggest potential market for the cannabis industry is right after these messages. You're listening to The Grind and Burn Show with Brainstorm. We'll be right back on CannabisCommunityProject.com.
2017. Have you started your business yet? Have you thought about your cannabis idea? Don't hesitate until next year. Email me at brainstorm@cannabiscommunityproject.com.
I'm Kate Mullen. Welcome back to the Grind and Burn Show featuring Brainstorm. Except today it's me, Kate Mullen, filling in for Brainstorm. And I just wanted to take a little bit of time. I've been standing here talking to my dear friend, studio engineer, Bob. Everybody say hi to Bob. Hi, Bob. So we've been talking about the cannabis market overall. And, we do a lot of talking to a lot of people here on the Grind and Burn show. And we continue to talk to more people. But we were just talking before the break, and we were discussing, or I had perplexed Bob with the question of who do you think the largest cannabis consumer market is? Who do you think the largest potential cannabis consumer market is, Bob? Not designers, not creators. And not 21-year-old, guys and gals, but the greatest consumer market for any product, but especially for the cannabis industry, is the non-using cannabis public, right? Because that it really is the greatest consumer market for any product is the public that is not using your product, right? In the cannabis industry, that still holds true. But what's fascinating, and I think many, many marketers are missing the point on this because you see so many cannabis companies or vape pen companies or edibles companies or strain companies, and they're using a lot of sex to sell. Women with big juicy lips and, scantily clad and sexual positions and stuff like that. I think they're way missing the mark because you know who the greatest consumer market is, the greatest potential consumer market for the cannabis industry is? It's me. It's your mother. It's your auntie. It's your older sister. Do you know that baby boomer women born between 1946 and 1964 represent a portion of the buying public that no marketer can afford to ignore? With successful careers, investments made during the boom years, and inheritances from husbands and parents, we, baby boomer women, are the most financially empowered generation than any other generation of women. And these facts come from She-Economy, She-Economy.com. That was a quote from Mary Brown in Marketing and the Ultimate Consumer Power. Did you know senior women? Well, first off, I'm going to stop there because a senior woman is not 50. Do I look like a senior? I'm 50. I don't look like a senior. Anyway, I don't act like a senior. I probably should act more senior, but I don't. Anyway, women 50 and older control net worth of 19 trillion American dollars. We own more than 3/4 of the nation's financial wealth. And yet we are the most maligned, not advertised to group of women in the country or group of consumers in the country. We have more money than anyone else in the whole United States. We have more than 3/4 of the nation's financial wealth, and that's according to Mass Mutual Financial Group. 50-plus-year-old American women are the healthiest, wealthiest, and most active generation of women in history. And did you know what? Once the college bills are out of the way and the discretionary power of us women, 50 plus, soar, we spend 2.5 times what the average person spends. We're the primary buyers for computers, cars, banking, financial services, and a lot of other big ticket categories. Vacations, cars. We're the ones that got the money. Our husbands are likely dead. I hate to say that, but I feel like if a man makes it to 55, we're good. But if you're going to die, if you're a guy, you're going to die between 49 and 55. I'm just saying. If they didn't die, then their husband is still wealthy and they are secure enough in their marriage that she has her own economy. That's why they call it She-Economy, right? And so we're the buyers of luxury cars, luxury vacations, and luxury clothing. Why are we not being marketed to by cannabis companies? Why are we not the first person that the cannabis industry, we as the cannabis industry, go to buy our products? We're caring for children. We're caring for the elderly. We're caring for ourselves. We're caring for houses. We're caring for businesses. We're buying all this stuff. So we have more money, more leisure time, more technology than any other generation in history. We can not only stay in touch with family and friends, but can actually continue to pursue our careers while traveling. This is from babyboomermagazine.com. All of this information can be found on She-Economy.com, She-Economy.com. If you're not marketing to women that are 50 years old and plus, you are not selling your product. If you are not courting women 50 years old and up, between 50 and 70, with your cannabis products, you ain't selling squat, baby. Let me tell you something. We buy for our children. We buy for our parents. We buy for ourselves. We buy for our houses. We buy for our offices. Women start 2/3 of all new businesses in the cannabis industry. Women start 2/3 of all new businesses overall. But specifically in the cannabis industry, it is being taken over, and I'm proud to say, okay, that is kind of a bold statement. Women are infiltrating the cannabis industry, and we're going to take it over one day. We're going to make it an industry of peace, love, harmony, and health, and wealth, and service to humanity. And the main thing as cannabis businesses that we need to do, the main thing as cannabis industry we need to do in our 15-year plan, because I want y'all all to start thinking about this 15-year plan. Because this 15-year plan is important for us to succeed as an industry without us getting run over by a bunch of opportunist industries, like the medical industry, like the pharmaceutical industry, like the tobacco industry, like the food industry. My dear friend says that if we do not devise our own cannabis industry 15-year plan, we will become phase 1 of someone else's 15-year plan. And we don't want that. So who are you marketing to? What's your 15-year plan for your cannabis business? What's your 15-year plan for your life? For crying out loud, do you know what your 15-month plan is for your life? Do you know what your plan is for the next 15 minutes? Things change dramatically, and you need to be able to be flexible and flow with the change. One thing that's not going to change in the very near future is that the biggest potential market for any product is the non-using consumer market of that product. And right now, the biggest potential consumer market for cannabis is women 50 to 70 years old, and not one cannabis company is advertising to that market. I'm just saying, let's do something. Let's create something. You can contact us here at contact@cannabiscommunityproject.com. We're interested. Send us some emails. Create a dialogue with us. Let's do something wonderful. Let's all create something great in the cannabis industry. Start thinking about what your thoughts are on a 15-year plan for the cannabis industry. Where do you fit in? Where does your business fit in? Where does your market fit in? What is your market? What are you going to do? We've got a pot of gold waiting for us at the end of this rainbow, but we got to claim it. We got to own it. We got to make sure everybody else knows that we own it. And we're only going to do that if we band together. Cannabis business unity, everybody. Cannabis business unity. Let's all work together. Let's saturate the market with current, real information about cannabis, its benefits, and all the things that come from it. Start a dialogue with us. Tune in. CannabisCommunityProject.com. This is the Grind and Burn Show featuring Brainstorm. I'm Kate Mullen. We really appreciate you tuning in. Remember, you can find us anywhere on the internet. Thanks for listening to my rant. I feel so much better.
Have you checked out the Cannabis Community Store? Check it out on the website. We have products from our sponsors and more. Only cannabis-related products. www.cannabiscommunitystore.com.
Good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in internet listen land. Welcome. It's time for the Grind and Burn Show. My name is Kate Mullen. I'm filling in for Brainstorm today. Hope you'll enjoy the show. We got a lot going on here. Article 18, Section 16, Item 1 in the Colorado State Constitution. You know why it's important that you know this information? Because it is your Cannabis Bill of Rights. You didn't know you had one, did you? Well, you do. It's Article 18, Section 16, Section 1, Purpose and Findings of Personal Use and Regulation of Marijuana in Colorado. And so to briefly go through this, I want y'all all just to take a little refresher course in this. And then I'm going to get on to our guest this evening, who is Don Ballou, the CEO of NutraHemp Corporation. It's an amazing American hemp corporation that, what does he do? Among other things, dog treats. Hello? Of course. Why didn't you think of that, right? Well, Don already beat you to it. And he's also got a bunch of other pet-related products or dog-specific related products for us dog moms and dads. I know you're really going to like hearing from him. But first, we're going to have a quick lesson in Colorado Cannabis Bill of Rights. So if you look at the Colorado State Constitution, Article 18, Section 16, it concerns personal use and regulation of marijuana in Colorado. So bookmark this radio broadcast on your bookmarks so you can refer to this, because I'm reading this directly off the state constitution website. Article A, in the interest and efficient use of law enforcement resources and enhancing revenue, public purposes, and individual freedom, the people of the state of Colorado find and declare that the use of marijuana should be legal for persons 21 years of age and and older and taxed in a manner similar to alcohol. B, the interest and health and public safety of our citizenry, the people of the state of Colorado further find and declare that marijuana should be regulated in a manner similar to alcohol so that individuals will have to show proof of age before purchasing marijuana. Selling, distributing, transferring marijuana to minors or other individuals under the age of 21 is illegal. Driving under the influence of marijuana shall remain illegal. Legitimate tax-paying business people and not criminal actors will conduct sales of marijuana. So if you're a criminal actor in the sales of marijuana, then you might have a real problem here in Colorado. Marijuana sold in this state will be labeled and subject to additional regulations to ensure that consumers are informed and protected. C, in the interest of enacting rational policies for the treatment of all variations of cannabis plant, that includes hemp, the people of Colorado further find and declare that industrial hemp should be regulated separately from strains of cannabis with a higher delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol concentration. The people of the state of Colorado further find and declare that it is necessary to ensure consistency and fairness in the application of this section throughout the state, and that therefore the matters addressed by this section, except where specified herein, are matters of the state. Now we're going to move real quickly on to personal possession, because that's what it's about, right? So we're going to scoot down here to personal possession. Section 3, personal use of marijuana. Notwithstanding any other provision of the law, the following acts are not unlawful and shall not be an offense under Colorado law or any other locality within Colorado, or be a basis for seizure or forfeiture of assets under Colorado law for the persons of age 21 years or older. It is not unlawful possessing, using, displaying, purchasing, or transporting marijuana accessories or 1 ounce or less of marijuana. Now I'm going to read that again because this is where people need to start paying attention. Possessing, using, displaying, purchasing, or transporting marijuana accessories or 1 ounce or less of marijuana is not unlawful, okay? So that means purchasing, displaying marijuana of 1 ounce or less is not unlawful. Possessing, growing, processing, transporting no more than 6 marijuana plants is not unlawful. This is another thing that's very important right now, everybody, because remember, the Colorado State House is discussing smoke lounge regulation and smoke lounge licensing. And I think this is a little silly because this is what it boils down to. Transfer of 1 ounce or less of marijuana without remuneration to a person who is 21 years of age or older is not unlawful. So that's why I'm reading this to you, because it's really important that you understand that gifting marijuana, as long as you are a 21-year-old adult to another 21-year-old adult, is not unlawful. And displaying that transaction of a gift of marijuana is also not unlawful. However, if you scroll down a little bit farther, you'll find it says consumption of marijuana, provided that nothing in this section shall permit consumption that is conducted openly and publicly or in a manner that endangers others. So you can't consume it openly and publicly or endanger others, but you can display a gifted transaction in public. Anyway, people, y'all need to know what the Constitution says, what your Colorado state Constitution says. I'm a Texan. And I think it's real important, if I know this stuff, that you know it too, whether you are a Texan, whether you're a Coloradan, whether you're in a state that has legal marijuana or not. You need to know what the parameters are. And it already states clearly in the Colorado Constitution that consumption, as long as it's private and not endangering others, is legal. That transferring or displaying marijuana of an adult 21 years old to another adult 21 years old is legal. Learn what your rights are. It's really important. We're going to be back after these messages. You're listening to The Grind and Burn Show, www.cannabiscommunityproject.com. Brainstorm's your host. I'm Kate Mullen filling in. We'll be right back.
How many moons has it been, darling? How many months since June? And how many lonesome wonders did you let yourself find? Into your skin, those foreign winds climb. Oh, into your skin, those foreign winds climb. Hold close and my love, don't ever let it go. Oh, hold it close now, and my love, oh, don't ever let it go. Hold close now. Oh, find love, oh, don't ever. Ooh.
You're listening to the Grind and Burn Show here on CannabisCommunityProject.com. We're very excited to be here with our guest, Don Ballou, the CEO of NutraHemp Corporation. And I want to say hello to my dear friend, Don Ballou. NutraHemp Corporation offers the highest grade CBD nutraceutical oil in varied formulations for consumers of healthful supplements. Their CBD essence comes from EU-certified industrial agriculturally grown hemp plants having a dominant CBD content grown sustainably on unspoiled tracts of beautiful land in Europe. The rest of proper CO2 extraction is a wholesome botanical extract, has everything that's naturally occurring in the original plant full-spectrum cannabinoids. Harnessed within are the synergistically inclined cannabinoids, terpenes, essential oils, and other phytonutrient compounds of the original hemp plant to nourish you just as nature intended. CBD hemp oil brands, hemp taffy, hemp pets, and the hemp chill pill. I want to welcome Don Ballou, CEO of NutraHemp. Welcome, Don.
Thank you, Kate. You always give such a glowing, generous introduction there, so I really appreciate that. It's my pleasure to talk with you this evening about my line of hemp healthy products for people and pets.
Yeah, not only your line of hemp healthy products for people and pets, but we want to know about your journey. We want to know about Don. You know, this is an entrepreneur's show, and what you have to offer, no one else has to offer. So let's start at the beginning, if we may. What were you doing? What were you thinking when you got into the cannabis business? No, but seriously, I mean, right. What were you doing before you had the what do they call, the dawn of awakening? I want to be in the cannabis business. What were you doing prior to your cannabis journey?
My epiphany came as I was supporting a public company that's local to me here who fancied themselves as a cannabis incubator. Actually, it was a friend I met through church, and he had a public company, call it a shell. It did have some operations, but not a lot going on, and he basically pulled me away from working at Raytheon, where I was manufacturing munitions and that sort of thing. I'm an engineer by training, and so making very critical parts and things like that are right up my alley. Just so happens I've studied health food as a hobby my entire life. I'm a 45-year-old cannapreneur, and fitness is my whole goal in life. And so this fellow was trying to figure out how to break into either Bitcoin or cannabis. And being that I had an affinity with cannabis my entire life, I encouraged him to let's find some operations to go into this public company. And it just so happens we had stumbled on some guys from Herbal Synergy that was out in Colorado, some really clever fellows, Charlie Steinberg and Derek Laban, and they had a personal analytics test kit. And so I was at the corporate branch in Florida while we were working with these fellows in Colorado to develop a personal test kit where somebody could test their batch of weed for a relative potency of THC or CBD.
Stop there for a second because I'm really interested in this. Is it still available?
As far as I know, it's still available. I parted ways with the public company. They seem to eventually be more interested in selling their stock and news releases than really making a product.
Yeah.
And it was sad because the product actually won an award in Denver for like the Chamber of Commerce for Product of the Year.
Wow, and this is so important to be able to verify testing. So important. Anyway, I digress.
It is. It's a great point. It all kind of comes together for me in the testing, the oversight, the transparency. You know, where I come from in engineering and at the company I was with, we have to attest to the supply chain. So finding out where your products came from, the suppliers, substantiate and validating them is something that people actually sign their life away to. So when I came to understand the hemp opportunity that would be legal versus the marijuana opportunity that I would perhaps one day get to participate in, I jumped on the hemp bandwagon, coming to realize that hemp is about 75% of what medical marijuana is. And in fact, it's better in a lot of cases. It's legal. It's more accessible. A lot of people don't want to get high and what have you. So it just so happened for me that I was working with a public company. I was helping them raise money. I was actually helping them with operations, and they were attempting to incubate several companies. Another one was Your Vape, which was a vaporizer, safe vape type company where they were branding pens. They were attempting to make the fluid that would go in there. And so I helped with the research and development while these guys looked at dozens, if not hundreds of different vape pens for viability, safety. You know, really we reverse engineered some. We come to understand, you know, really critical things like the vaporization point of the different cannabinoids. You know, there's dozens, if not hundreds of cannabinoids in this remarkable plant, and they all might boil off at a different temperature or what have you. So not only did I have test kits available that I could burn through and really test my products and see if I knew what I was doing, substantiating that, but we had the vape products there and a number of other things. So I was working for a friend that just so happened to have this company, and with the trend, we started putting operations in this company and made a bunch of products. And so when importing the CBD came along, I decided this would be my project. And so I spearheaded this. I always thought I'd have a health food store one day. You know, that's what I would fall back on when I didn't want to travel or do anything anymore. I'd buy into a health food store. And so instead of doing that, I've created my own line of nutraceuticals from hemp, which is just amazing. It's an amazing superfood, and it's a whole superfood. And so that's what I fashioned all of my products after, is making that type of whole food available to regular people and pets.
That's amazing. It is a remarkable product. And so what does it mean that EU certified agricultural hemp? Tell us why that's important.
Okay, so the folks that I buy the hemp from are multi-generational hemp farmers. You can look up the International European Hemp Association, and there's a group of guys there. The fellas that I actually buy the hemp paste from, their fathers were the original growers on these lands. And so, you know, these are guys where the farm, that's their baby. They do the extraction there. They know how to keep care of the hemp. They realize that, you know, once it's minced and decarboxylated and put into that oil paste form, that it's now fragile and volatile, and then it has to be cared for. And they do a number of tests there. And then what I do is I verify everything on this side with third-party testing, and they were always right on. Everything they said was true. Their potencies, there was never any microbes, volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, that sort of thing. So, you know, because of my history and background, I really thoroughly, substantially proved that this was a good source and supply of hemp because, as we know, you know, hemp will clean the ground. And if it's in dirty ground, then you're going to have that sort of elements in the hemp, and I won't stand for that.
According to the Colorado State Constitution, cannabis as hemp is regulated separately and is approved to grow. I recently read that Texas says that they approve of agricultural hemp. You know, other states that have also approved of agricultural hemp. What do you think about the market or the business, or what do you think about the overall purity of American hemp? Now, I know that there are some that are high potency proprietary strains, and I know that there's some that are growing out in the wild, out in somebody's pasture, and they also get harvested. Can we speak about, is there a level of which the CBDs must be to be considered medicinal versus a level that they must be to be considered agricultural to build building materials or cars or whatever you're going to buy. What does that look like?
The CBD content really defines the plant when it's in a whole plant form. So when you see that 0.3%, that's what they're looking for in order to call that a hemp plant.
Out of the whole product, not about out of 0.3% out of the whole manufactured end product.
Right. Now, that's understood that the manufactured end product will and sometimes will have higher amounts of, let's say, THC than is federally legal. But if you really look at the laws and the regulations and what the DEA has been told by judges that their business is not that THC, not when it originated from that plant that's denoted as a hemp plant. Okay, because when you have natural botanicals and you do extraction, you do concentrations, of course you're going to get every part of that element increased. THC is no different, and it's very difficult to remove the two. But typically what happens is, based on the technology that the extraction, whoever's doing the extractions, they go up to a point where THC is at a safe level, if you will, in their mind, and that's where they stop. And so whatever CBD level you get, whether it be 10, 20, 40, or 60 or more, that's where they end up. And a lot of times they end up with the CBD content based on them trying not to exceed a certain threshold of THC.
So a high-potency CBD is generally, I hate to say genetically modified because it sounds so bad, but a high-potency CBD hemp is created that way versus a low-potency CBD hemp that might be growing in the rolling hills of Kentucky wild?
Well, I think it wouldn't matter which type of hemp. It would just end up being more or less tonnage. For instance, the CBD that I end up getting, there was probably a tremendous amount of tonnage that it took in order to get us the 10 or 20 or 40% of CBD by volume. Whereas if you have a special strain that's meant for CBD, then it wouldn't take as much. It's the same molecule, whether you get it from the marijuana plant, the horticultural, the plant that grows in a greenhouse versus the industrial agricultural plant, which grows without any intervention. And, I remember hippies telling us as a kid, there's a whole field of that weed that doesn't get you high. And so I remember hearing as a kid that people were well aware that there was a variety of the plant that don't bother, it doesn't get you high. Well, guess what? There's plenty of other good stuff in there that is very helpful.
So let's talk about American hemp and American hemp products. There's a lot of hemp products coming out. I mean, you've obviously got a lot of CBDs. Wonderful thing you have are dog treats. I've heard about hemp or CBD hemp pastas, food products, hemp oil like an olive oil. There's hemp clothing and that sort of thing. Do we as Americans currently, as American farmers currently farm enough hemp to fill the needs should companies like yours and others choose to buy American hemp exclusively? Do you think we can take that?
We don't, and it would take some time to catch up to that, and that's part of the problem here is that we're importing products that our farmers could be growing. So everything, as you know, is under, the guise of some government research situation because they are trying to limit the cultivation of cannabis in any form.
So, Don, what year was it that you got involved in the cannabis industry? So we kind of have an idea of the political climate.
Well, it's about 3 years ago. So 2014 is when I began looking at it, and I was supporting the public company with a number of things. One of them was a software company that I helped them run. And then when the seed to sale type tracking came along, I was very interested because software that I was selling was asset tracking software, and there was RFID component connected to it. And it seemed like that would be the future of keeping track of these plants. And so there was some technology that was already under our belts. And so it made it easy for us to start studying, how to get into the market. I mean, there was a number of good efforts with the test kits and the vape pens. And for me, I didn't want to battle any of the legalities. There's certain frustrations for me that I've learned to avoid. And, I have this notion we live in a free country. And so, the fact that this plant has to justify itself in order for people to have access to it just sickens me to the core. And so that's why I stuck with medicinal hemp. Hemp is, in my opinion, 75% of what medical marijuana does. It is the safe route for me to start doing business now and not be one of those guys that are at all these meetings fighting the legislators. You know, here in Florida, I know they're behind the times. We've voted for 71% to legalize marijuana for medicinal purposes, but now our legislators are writing laws that say something like you can't smoke it. You can't have any raw flower whatsoever. So they're completely clueless because eating cannabis, juicing cannabis raw, even before you decarboxylate it, is very healthy. It's very nutrient dense. This is just like kale. If you can imagine, kale is the most nutrient dense of all the leafy greens. Marijuana, cannabis, hemp is right behind it. And I believe that's why the propaganda that went in place to prohibit growing this stuff, because if you grow hemp, you use hemp, you're nourished. You don't need pharmaceuticals and healthcare and other things.
Yeah, you put them out of business. You know, I know a lot of the people that I've talked to that are in the cannabis business, they've left the high-tech sector or they left securities and exchange and to get into the cannabis business. And all of them, when I picture them in my mind, some of them even have been past guests on Grind and Burn while I've been filling in. And they've left these really stressful, bad karma jobs. I hate to say that about bad karma, but left these jobs that were so stressful and so monotonous and so difficult, and they got into the cannabis business with a sort of a flavor of what they did originally, and they found that they have downsized their lives, their health is better, they've lost weight, they're not on blood pressure medicines, that it's a real lifestyle change. It sounds like you were already pretty health conscious, as I understand a lot of people in Florida are. But did you find that when you got into the cannabis business as an entrepreneur, as a business person, that did your life get a little more relaxed and happy? Or did it get more difficult and stressful and where you want to rip your hair out?
I'll tell you, my work life got much better, less stressful. And I was one of those guys get stuck in a cubicle once in a while. I've worked for some major corporations, ITT corporations. I did a stint at Johnson & Johnson with their Visticon manufacturing, Baxter Healthcare, a number of just ginormous companies. Raytheon was the most recent one where the clean room that I ran was audited by the Missile Defense Agency. And if you want to talk about stressful, yeah, and you got to explain yourself why you made some such decision. That's the kind of element that I thrive in, where I can prove myself to someone, substantiate things, show the evidence, and not be questioned or cooped. It's like if somebody comes to tell you the earth is flat, by all means, go look it up. Don't argue with them when you yourself don't know. To me, what really upset me was realizing that in 2001 that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services was issued a patent on cannabinoids. Okay, so here's one branch of my government that I have so much pride in, saying cannabinoids are amazing oxidative stress reducing elements, and that's what fixes things like Parkinson's and some really nasty stuff. And then I have another branch of the government called the DEA saying that this stuff has no use, don't touch it, it's good for nothing, it's just like heroin.
Wow.
Really? The heroin that they prescribe and all these pharmaceuticals that hemp can get you off of. People, when they get on hemp and stay on hemp, they don't reach for the opiates as much.
And that's interesting because I know a lot of people understand that that's true of marijuana, but I don't know that a lot of people understand that hemp with low to no THCs also has that medicinal effect. So are you toes in the sand in sunny Florida?
Yes, I have a pool out my back door. We stay suntan. We absolutely love it. Part of what I really thought of long term would be, we have a lot of dirt in Florida. And if you move to the middle of the state, there was a lot of sugarcane and such growing. And so I envisioned one day converting some number of those sugarcane plants into hemp processing plants. We have ports, we have airports, we have everything here to build a ginormous machine to really fully utilize this same plant that's been proved itself so long ago. There was campaigns in place many years ago where they begged farmers to please grow hemp so we can make rope for our battleships. This plant has had to reprove itself with all this science and patents, and I think it's fascinating when we're ignoring the fact that we should be in a free country where any responsible adult should be able to use this stuff however they see fit.
Let's talk about your journey for a minute. I hate to keep coming back. I mean, I don't hate to keep coming back to you. Obviously, you're the reason for the season.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting because, I think there's a lot of people that are stuck in the corporate grind. You're not the first one, actually, Don, that I've talked to today in a high-powered job and in a major city here in the United States. And I guess I want to ask you about a little bit more about your journey. I want to know, as an entrepreneur and a business person, what was your greatest satisfaction so far? Now, I know you're not done, but what was your greatest satisfaction so far in the cannabis industry?
Yeah, that's going to be an easy one, and it's the testimonials from my clients where, you surprise the heck out of someone that this actually did work for them. It caused their ailment to subside or go away. Got my engineering degree in '93. I had a Florida food manager license soon after that, where I set up a frozen food factory. I've been licensed to do Florida life insurance, health annuities. I've been a mortgage broker, a mortgage planner, and a number of things. So for me, I always had the satisfaction of the end user at the end of the day. When I set out to make these products, making people better, despite the fact that they might have no education on nutrition whatsoever, to me, that was the most rewarding thing. And so, getting this testimonials where people were saying, please hurry, quick, can you overnight some more dog biscuits? I realize now every time we run out of these biscuits, the dog seizures begin again. So I know it's the biscuits that are fixing them. Please, can you send it? And I'll drop everything and I will absolutely send it. And those are the most rewarding. And, the first one and then the first 10 and the first few dozen, just, you can't believe it. But then finally you realize this is what I set out to do this for. I believed these elements would be that nourishing, and come to find out there's actually an internal system in your body. It's one of your most primal systems that's actually dialed in to know exactly what to do with these elements in the cannabis plant.
Well, service to humanity, I think, is a common thread among cannabis, certainly cannabis entrepreneurs. I mean, and obviously money is a goal too. But in truth, I think when people get into the cannabis business, they're doing it because, first off, it's a loving kind of social plant. But I think that it's true that there's a great satisfaction out of service to humanity and knowing that you're doing good, and especially doing good for someone's pet, who oftentimes is their only loved one if they're elderly or alone, or a loved family member that's helping a disadvantaged family member get through. So, yeah, I think that there's a common thread of service to humanity, and I think you're a good example of that. So, conversely, I want you to think about this for a minute, because I know in business, and certainly in the cannabis business, and I can attest to this myself, there's a lot of ups and downs, probably proportionately more downs than ups. But I want to not ask you what the worst thing that ever happened was, because I don't want to know that, and I don't think our listeners want to know either. But what do you think was the biggest lesson that you learned so far in the cannabis business as an entrepreneur?
That's a really great question. The hardest thing that it's been to overcome for me now, keep in mind, I'm in Florida and I am doing legal hemp that I can import, completely legal, but getting things like a bank account is problematic, especially if you have hemp in the name, never mind CBD, keeping credit card processing services, things like that. So actually collecting mom or pop's money when they finally decide, yes, I'm going to take a chance and eat this product for myself or feed it to my dogs, collecting money from them, where people finally want to give me money. And I finally have sold and marketed my idea in such a way that they buy it, but I can't hardly get the money from them. PayPal won't consider hemp-related businesses. Anybody who's on PayPal, they won't be for long that's doing any of this. So the hardest thing was realizing that there was a system in place that actually means to stifle this type of business.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because somebody recently told me, and I don't know how this affects our industry, how it affects a Florida incorporated, and I assume you're incorporated in Florida, but how it affects a Florida incorporated business. But someone told me that there are 2 banks in the state of Colorado that have one location, and they do cannabis business banking. One of them's in Crested Butte, and I want to say the other one's in Aurora, but I'm not sure. But I wonder if interstate banking, what about moving banking to Colorado? Is that a possibility for cannabis companies? Do you forecast?
Well, it's something I need to look at, because I've seen a number of those groups come on and try to provide those services, and then there would be some big impound or percentage that they had to charge. They basically consider you high risk, even if they could do it. And, based on my thoughts and feelings, I didn't want to be in a high risk. I've been told that we're the same as, online gambling, online porn. You might as well be that while I'm selling nutraceuticals to people who might get better from them,
God forbid that should happen. Let's talk a little bit about hemp industry. According to Hemp Business Journal, the market size of the hemp industry sales in 2016 were $688 million. They also believe that the hemp, food, body care, and CBD products lead hemp retail market, growing at a 5-year 22% aggregate. And they're talking about the products that are the 7 primary product categories are food, personal care, textiles, supplements, hemp-derived cannabidiol, CBDs, industrial applications such as car parts, paper and construction materials, and that sort of thing. 2016, $688 million. Care to take we got a pool going on. We got one of those, looks like a football pot. What do you think the hemp market potential is for sales for 2017?
Well, I think it's easily $688 million. If that's what it was in 2016, I think it's going to be exponential growth. I mean, I can see, just me as one manufacturer, I have not just one flavor of taffy, chewy hemp candy. Now I have 3 and 4, and I don't have just 1 or 2 dogs products. I have 6 or 8. I've created brands like Hemp's Care that would be for the topicals now. I just saw an article in the Business Investment magazine where balms, BALM, like topicals are really growing by leaps and bounds, and I think it's going to continue to grow because people are catching on that the official story is almost never true. And when you look at the official story from the DEA calling this a Schedule 1, meanwhile, nobody knows anybody who's died from it. I think people are learning that this stuff might be good for them. And where I'm focusing on those 7 branches are food and personal care. What I've been studying is that the human body is nourished by food, and it's meant to be assimilated in such a way, right? Food has to be in a state that your body can get absorptive action from it. And so what really brought me into my line of products is realizing that people were moving to legal cannabis states and then eating hemp oil on a spoon or something and realizing that that's the worst way to take it. Not that you won't get benefit from it, but you get so little absorption from it. So if that oil has not been specially prepared to have sublingual absorption under the tongue, like mouth drops do, like a tincture does, if it hasn't been put in a liposome capsule so that it gets through the stomach acid, when you eat this stuff, it's just degrading to the point getting so little out of it. So that's what I fashioned my products after, to be food. Because when you eat good food, your body nourishes itself, and that's precisely the system the cannabinoids serve, is that homeostasis system, that system that meant to balance you, and it's from metabolism to everything is affected by that system. So I believe it's going to be $1 billion industry, at least in the edibles, the stuff that I'm working on, very easily, very soon.
And I totally agree, and especially with what you bring to the table in the form of NutraHemp dog products. I mean, that right there is a huge market.
People that are still eating at McDonald's and, they don't really give a care about themselves. I mean, they know when Rover slows down. They know when their little dog's not doing good, and they will absolutely go find something for it. And pound for pound, if I had to sell all my companies and only work on one of them, I would stick with the pets. Those little animals, they get so much out of it. I rescued a white cat with blue eyes from the pound here. It had a nasty cyst over its eye. And cysts, if people, there's certain things where you don't get a lot of blood flow to, and that's why it's hard to heal, and especially on an animal, something like a cyst in the scalp, it's not a lot of blood flowing there, but I put CBD in this cat's food for 6 months, and I'll be darned if that thing didn't retreat down to where you could barely tell that there was something there.
Wow.
And
it's a demonstration for the owner.
It is. It just works, and there's a reason they prohibited this stuff, okay? It's because it works. It's good for you. It's for not any other reason.
And it's not real expensive.
It doesn't have to be. You're right. I mean, we all do need to make a profit at the end of the day, and what I saw with the people that were selling the CBD oil, that there was a huge margin in it, and so that's why I decided that as a manufacturing engineer, is what my history is in, that I could make products and then learn to sell them some kind of way, because there's so much margin in that from what I saw in the beginning that it didn't have to be. You didn't have to charge that much. You just got to buy in bulk, make a good formulation that works, and my products work at much lesser milligrams than other people's because they're properly formulated. Just because it says the milligrams are in the bottle doesn't mean you're going to get it in your body.
Let's jump a little bit to the future, if we may, real quick. Don Ballou, CEO of NutraHemp Corporation. What do you see as new and relevant as far as technologies or formulations coming up in the hemp industry, and how do you think it's going to affect product manufacture?
Well, I'm really excited about the future, and a number of the processors that I work with are coming online with things like water-soluble products. Hemp oil is an oil base, and it doesn't necessarily mix so well with water, so there's some technology that's allowing them to make powders. There's a number of formulas that I have in mind that could easily explode, drink mixes and otherwise from a water-soluble powder, making things like gummies would work better with a water-soluble. Isolates are really a good way to spike a CBD product. It was already made with full spectrum, but then take CBD to a much higher level. So really the raw materials that I would need as a formulator, there's more and more of these coming online, becoming more available so that I could test them and make products with them and then send them off to the third-party testers and see, does the CBD really stick? Is it bioavailable, in that product? So the future of, my type of products that I'm making from industrial legal hemp, I'm just excited about because there's going to be, more and more products. I have a plan that I could bring on a new product every month for the next 24 months, based on these new products.
And I want to ask you, Don, if you could look into the future and you could contribute to a 15-year plan for the cannabis industry, what would an element be that you'd like to see part of that plan?
Well, what I'm doing to contribute is something that I call share and care that you'll hear from things like multi-level marketing groups. And, this product can have profound health results. And sometimes, you need it to come from a friend to say, hey, you remember those migraines, those debilitating migraines I was having? They're gone. Hey, do you remember how I couldn't even get out of bed with my rheumatoid arthritis? Guess what? I played golf yesterday. So I believe in sharing and caring. And so besides quite a bit of charity I supply and give to new affiliates of mine, I actually created an affiliate resellers program because everybody knows somebody that's got ailments or issues. And once they get sold on this product, then it's a lot easier for them to refer a friend or something like that. So I would believe replicating the hardest part of what I've had to do, which is create an e-store where you can actually have the products, they convert into customers, and you can deliver. That's what I'm contributing, is an affiliate program where resellers and more regular folk can get into the grassroots effort of promoting hemp, get that stigma, that reefer madness stigma, kind of out of the way. That's what I think we need to be pushing on over the next 15 years is just pure education. If you look at most any problem we've had, it was education that made them realize that polio was being spread by, dirty hands and then being in the water. It wasn't necessarily a vaccine that fixed polio. It was realization that, hey, we can't do it like this anymore. We're getting people sick. Using the technology to make it easier for grassroots type functions to take place. So for me, I'm doing all the small hippie shows, any of the local, yokel stuff. I'm going out there and making sure people understand that hemp is food. It will make them healthy if they eat it. And that it's not necessarily has to be medical marijuana or all this dosage and hocus pocus and all this kind of stuff. It's food. If you eat enough of it, it's like salad. Some people need to eat more salad than others. Some people don't need much. And what's fantastic about this product is a little bit goes a long way sometimes for a lot of people. It doesn't take much to right the ship, so to speak.
So you'd like to see more benefit for a greater number of people, be it in profitability, sharing, and health.
Absolutely.
Very
all
cool.
Based on the education, yeah. People are just unaware because we have people having epiphanies every day. They're like, "What do you mean? I don't need a prescription for this?" No, you don't. You mean I can take as much or little as I want? And yes, of course.
You can make it a lifestyle. Cannabis dog biscuits, cannabis foods, hemp clothing, hemp shoes. You can make it a lifestyle. And that's what the cannabis business is. It is actually a lifestyle. I want to thank you, Don Ballou, CEO of NutraHemp Corporation, maker of NutraHemp Little Dog Biscuits. Tell me again about the taffy that you're making and why it's relevant real quick.
So The hemp taffy is fashioned after an already existing medicinal mint called Angel Mint, which is made at the Florida Candy Factory in Dunedin, Florida, in the same county where I'm at. And so I went to these guys already well aware of their mint and asked them, hey, would you consider letting me spike your mint with my hemp oil? And I convinced them to do that, and we made a fantastic product. And actually, the old-timer that created Angel Mint that was working with Walt Disney back in the 80s, he never thought he'd be able to improve upon his mint, and he told me that he was sticking around for one more project, and he believed hemp taffy was it, and he helped me get it started. He's since passed, a guy named Jerry Rim, fantastic gentleman, but he got me started with the hemp taffy, and it's absolutely going to be a million-piece seller. I mean, it's a chill pill. It's a mood mint. People really don't realize how a little bit of this sublingual formula, when they chew on a little piece of candy, it really puts them in a better mood almost instantly.
And it's a familiar flavor that we all know of.
Yeah, it's saltwater taffy. I mean, it really is a kind of a comfort food. And so I've got a number of people hooked on it. And I'll tell you, a lot of the old-timers, they tell me they feel like they're getting away with something. You know, it reminded them of tobacco when they were a kid, you know, eating a piece of tobacco leaf or something. I mean, you really do feel there's a medicinal aspect to it. The original Angel Mint was already known for queasiness, irritable bowel, nausea, stuff like that. It was already serving people in a palliative care therapy kind of way. It's in hospital gift shops and other places, you know, to cure like metal mouth when people are getting chemotherapy and stuff like that. And so we absolutely know for sure now when people eat these chewy hemp candies, they are in better moods, and people that are going through chemotherapy or something like that, really invasive medicine, they need to feel better in between. And that's what these CBD oil products really can do and make a big impact on, is that branch of medical marijuana patients, if you will, who, you know, may or may not even really want marijuana because of the psychotropic effect.
They just need the benefit.
Yeah.
Don, you're amazing. You've done an amazing thing, and you continue to do amazing things. Don Ballou, NutraHemp Corporation CEO, tell us how to get a hold of you. What's your email address or your 800 number to ask any questions or to get your products?
Sure. The best way somebody can reach me is by leaving me a message on the 1-800-280-2347 or email sales@cbdessence.net.
cbdessence.net. So greatly appreciate your time, Don Ballou. Don't be a stranger.
My pleasure.
And we thank you for being here on the Grind and Burn Show with Brainstorm, except it's me today, Kate Mullen. Want to remind you that you can contact us here at CannabisCommunityProject.com by emailing contact@CannabisCommunityProject.com. My name is Kate Mullen. We thank you for listening to the Grind and Burn Show, and we look forward to seeing you or hearing you next week on CannabisCommunityProject.com.
There you go, Cannapreneurs. Thank you for joining me this week. Make sure to come back next week. We'll be talking to even more guests from the industry, from the government, from the entrepreneur world. Make sure to reach out to us on all the social media, Massroots, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any place else, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.